Hello, everyone. Welcome to the presentation of John Donahoe, the CEO of Nike Incorporation. Do you really need an introduction to Nike Incorporation? No, right? All of us know Nike is the number one sportswear brand in the world. So, who is John? Who is John? John is the CEO John became the CEO of Nike Incorporation January 2020. So he is there in the company now for 3 years, but he was on the Nike's board as independent director since 2014. Before becoming the CEO of Nike, he was the CEO of ServiceNow and eBay, and even currently he's the chairman of the board of PayPal. So he's an industry giant. He's an industry expert. But you must be thinking now, like he became the CEO in 2020. So he was there with the company for 3 years. So why I selected, John Donahoe to talk about these strategic initiatives? The reason is this, guys. Look at this graph because we know most of the apparel brands in the world, they did not do very well for last 3 years, especially because of the COVID pandemic. But y'all can see how Second, y'all can see how Nike performed in the market, right? So Nike recorded their highest ever sales in last 3 years, and their revenue was growing continuously because of John's leadership. So that's why I selected John in order to analyze his strategic initiatives. Okay, so we'll discuss what are the main strategic initiatives behind this leadership. I have analyzed 7 strategic initiatives which are connected with different strategic, theories and concepts that we learn in strategic management. Number one, driving the digital transformation of the company. So John very clearly says, John very clearly mentioned in one of the interviews, he said, bringing technology to a company like eBay and PayPal, it's very easy because those are companies operated based on, the technological products. But bringing technology to an apparel brand like Nike is not that easy because you should not bring all the possible technologies in, but you need to be very precise in order to understand what technologies will add value to the customer, what technologies will make customers' life easier. So you need to look through the customer's eyes. In John's word, he defined this as outside in mentality. And at the same time, John says, when you're, bringing in all the technologies, still you should be able to stand on your mission statement. So if you do this, if you satisfy your customers with all these new technologies, that will definitely, gain your competitive advantage, and, you should be able to retain that competitive advantage. So Nike is currently, they have included so many sophisticated features to their app, Nike Virtual Studios, and they are using data analytics and, data science at a greater extent. Number two, meaningful acquisitions. Very recently, John led the Nike to acquire RTFKT. It's a startup IT company which was, started in 2020. So Nike acquired this particular company. This, IT startup company is mainly into the leverage of game engines and then blockchain authentications and especially into augmented reality. Why Nike acquired this company? Because Nike is in its journey to release its digital sneakers. To strengthen that project, so John led Nike to go and acquire this company. Now this company is working under the Nike's ownership to release the digital sneakers. Now this is kind of a virtual integration. So these are the meaningful acquisitions that Nike has done. Number three, strengthening the biasness to change. In strategic management, we talk about, the change management a lot. So in John's word, he says that is biasness to change. Do you guys know when John started his position as the CEO, for the first 100 days, he did a complete listening and learning, a kind of a learning process. He went into a listening and learning process because John says listening is the most important thing when you're handling a change. So John decided to have a meeting with his entire team during his first few days, and he asked 3 main questions from these people, from his team. Basically, he asked, what are the 2 or 3 things that we need to get right during the next 12 to 24 months? And then what are the most important values that we need to preserve to maintain who we are? And the third question is, what are the 2 or 3 things that we need to change. So these three questions enable John to understand what kind of a change is required for the organization and why that change is required. So that is very important, handling the change management as the top lead of the business. Number four, switching peacetime mentality to wartime mentality. So John very nicely explains, as soon as the world entered to the pandemic, so Nike immediately closed all their physical stores and they immediately moved to the online platforms to do their sales because they were getting ready for the worst outcome. So this is what John is saying, because especially when you are in a very stressful situation, you need to change your peaceful mentality to wartime mentality. And John has now influenced a culture in the company to be agile and to confront all the peak and valleys of the business very successfully. Number five, strengthening outbound logistics. This is what Porter discussed in value chains, right? In Porter's value chain, Porter says outbound logistics is very important thing. So John actually strengthened the outbound logistics of Nike by, enhancing the capacity of the regional distribution centers across US and Europe. They introduced different technological features like advanced demand sensing and inventory optimization platforms in those distribution centers. Number six, providing more services together with the product. Again, in Porter's value chain, Porter talks about services, especially if you are giving a physical product to the customer, just try to add some additional services even after sales. So John has led the Nike company to give some different services. What are those? Nike has invested to build their own stores called Nike Well Collective Stores. I know Nike is thriving now their online segment, but still Nike is investing in the physical store network as well. That's why Nike has built Nike Well Collective Stores. In those stores, they provide guiding tips to the physical movement across the body and then strengthening the mindfulness, life learning. And in order to provide all these learnings, Nike use like world leading prominent coaches to provide all these learnings to their customers. Number seven, considering strategies to make cash cow to a star in potential market. What does it mean? If you take China, China is the second highest, China has the second highest demand for sportswear apparels. So if you take Nike in China, Nike has a very huge market share, but their growth is really stagnated. Since 2019, y'all can see this graph, Nike has not grown in China's market, but John wants to change this. John wants, their Chinese market to grow. It means John wants to move this cash cow to a star. So what John has done to make this, make his dream a true, John is now leading Nike to basically focus the Generation Z in China. So in order to do that, actually they have partnered with Top Sports, that's a Beijing, a Chinese-based company, and they have launched a program called Nike Rise and Nike Membership Club. At the same time, they have given the access to exclusive product information, and then they're doing some other services like yoga classes, sports salons, and handicraft workshops as well. So these are the main seven strategic initiatives that John has practiced for last 3 years to strengthen the performance of Nike. Thank you very much.